I do. You know, there's danger of sitting this close with your face big and. Yeah. Special church.
I'm ready for it. That's scary. It's scary.
10:13.
To replace it, it's like.
Okay. Had to get one of these chocolate covered madam. Well, let's get started so we can get as much time as we can. We have to end early, as I mentioned in the email. So I can get back down to BBS and help with the finish of the music. You are more than welcome to go down and see the closing today. If you want to see the kids singing and having a great time and see Pastor Jonathan and Zelman. And Justin is doing the Hammond organ thing, playing guitar, so really great week of Vacation Bible. The other quick announcement is don't forget we have the picnic this Sunday. If you've never gone to that camp on Wildcat Lake, Luther Haven it's called. There's two parts of our camp. There's the campsite, as they call it, where groups and the churches, there's the big lot, but the A-frame lodge and all the small little kind of cabins, I guess you would call them. And there's that side, but then there is the picnics, which congregate you can use, by the way. Sandy and I went out there and we just grabbed some dinner and just took it out there and sat down. I think it was a Monday night. And we were the only ones there. The birds on the lake and of course, but right next to is the public beach for Wildcat Lake, which is everybody's crammed in over there. But you've got this beautiful spot there during the week that you can go out to any time of day. There's canoes and sailboats. Sandy and I got to get with you guys. We would love to learn to do those little things. I'm gonna send her out with you. Although I think that those are like single people sailboats, I think. Yeah. Yes.
What is the picnic?
Picnic is basically 12:31.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say since church ends at 11:30, So we'll start lunch somewhere around 12:31. And so I think there's, it's like not a potluck necessarily, but you bring a dish. We're grilling hot dogs and hamburgers and that type of thing. So I think there might be information about what to bring in the e-news this week. Yes, Audrey.
Salad and side dishes and through quantity.
Desserts. Okay. And unless you've got in the second part, you got a really good salad, you can break the rules, but that's not everybody. So yeah. Things, we just hang out. Usually there's some bingo going on. People are using the sailboats and the kayaks, and kids are swimming. We have a lifeguard. So you can swim out to a dock. The water is quite pleasant right now. So I took my niece, who's not little, 12 years old now, but she visited about 2-3 weeks ago and went out there and we did all kinds of things, they went over to Seattle for a day and she says, I wish we'd have come here first. She was played out on the lake all day, so. And one of the things she loved the best was they still got one of those, merry-go-round type things that they outlawed everywhere else, but it's still there and it's grandfathered in, so she loved that. Anyway, so don't forget about Luther Haven, but don't forget about the church picnic. Other than that, let's just get right to it. Let's have an opening prayer. Let me get Ace in here. The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Gracious and loving God, let your spirit be upon us as we continue to walk through Genesis and hear this amazing story of your promise, working in with, through, and under, and despite human frailty. So give us your guidance and let your word do its work. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, well, we finished last week with Joseph's dream. And I mentioned that there are some folks that believe that that there is some evidence that after the Ark of the Covenant disappeared, the Babylonian exile, that instead of that, they put the stone that Jacob had laid his head on in the temple or in the Holy of Holies. I think that's interesting. And so we talked about, and we looked a lot at John, where Jesus says, you're amazed that I saw you under the fig tree, and you're claiming I'm the Messiah, but wait, you're going to see even greater things. You're going to see the angels of God ascending and descending, not in the temple, not on the stone of Jacob, not you're in a dream, but you're going to see that figuratively happening upon Jesus. And so we worked that through really well last week, and now we're going to get on to some romance and some R-rated movie stuff. I don't know what would qualify as a romantic comedy, but I don't know.
Dark comedy.
A dark comedy, yeah, exactly. It's definitely not a Hallmark. So, but you'll see where a lot of the modern writers get their inspiration. So we're going to move on now. Let's just remember where Jacob's at. Is he hanging out, chilling, all cool, everything's great? No, he's running for his life. His brother wants to kill him. If I were to pull, I don't know if I can grab Luther real quick here. Yeah. Let's see. This is, there's a little Luther here at this stage. So he's going to talk about Jacob's trials now. It's like, okay, I've got the promise, you know, but now I gotta be on the run. You wouldn't think the one who gets the promise has to flee for his life. So I think this is what Luther's picking up on. He says, thus in our life, when we are exercised by the word in the church and use the sacraments, we are also plagued by various trials. So this, whether Luther sometimes makes these connections, you know, or, you know, just, you know, correctly or not, Luther's always like, where does this connect to our lives? And so, of course, Luther's going to see in Jacob's fleeing for his life, how, you know, his stand for the word has brought him and his compatriots persecution. So we are also plagued by various trials, and our faith is tested like gold in a furnace. This is the true saintliness because of which we are called and are saints. For the Holy Spirit sanctifies through the word taken hold of through faith, and he mortifies the flesh by means of suffering and troubles. So we are sanctified through faith, but our sufferings and troubles, you know, do shape us up. They have an effect on us, in order that the saints may be quickened and may present their bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God. And that's, he's quoting, of course, Romans there. But lest we lose heart if we heard that the saintly fathers are set forth only in the highest stage of kind of life. God leads them back from heaven to earth and describes them as completely worthless and as men of the lowest sort, so that nothing more common or worthless could be mentioned, except that their sins are not praised. Otherwise, they are described in a completely meager manner, as though they were crawling in the dust of domestic and political life. He goes on. What's his point? I know it's kind of funny, but his point is, look, Genesis doesn't paint these people as superheroes. They're human beings, and they're messed up, and you're going to see them doing the same stuff that their forebears did.
And they didn't ask for that role in life.
Right, and so, and Luther says, isn't that cool? Can't you relate? You think you're not a part of the kingdom of God because you got some foibles and frailties and issues? Hey, God worked with people in Genesis, he can certainly work with you. So take great comfort in that. So, not that they're not heroes, but they're ordinary people. And don't we do this today with our heroes? We make them out to be, you know, perfect, and then we find out they had some flaws that, you know, oh my God, you know. Mother Teresa is a great example. I mean, not too long ago, a bunch of letters surfaced from her. She's saying, I don't know if I believe this stuff. I don't know this. And I don't, you know, just some stuff. And people were just shocked. You mean she actually had doubts? Dairy people? You know, but see, we want to make our heroes, you know, perfect, you know. So that's what I like about the Incredibles movies, is the Incredibles not perfect. There's my connection. Shall we jump in here? Then Jacob went on his journey and came to so he's going on his journey. He's doing as he was told, flee to your mother's kindred. We didn't talk about the 10th coming in, by the way, too much, but we should have done that, but maybe we'll come back to that. There is this concept that, you know, the 10th of all of God's blessings God gives to us goes to God. And we could talk about that at some point. I'm sure it'll come up again. Then Jacob went on his journey and came to the land of the people of the east. As he looked, he saw a well in the field, and behold, 3 flocks of sheep lying beside it. For out of that well the flocks were watered. The stone on the well's mouth was large, and when all the flocks were gathered there, the shepherds would roll the stone from the mouth of the well and water the sheep, and put the stone back in its place over the mouth of the well. Jacob said to them, my brothers, where do you come from? They said, we are from Haran. He said to them, do you know Laban, the son of Nahor? And they said, we know him. He said to them, is it well with him? They said, it is well. And see, Rachel, his daughter, is coming with the sheep. He said, behold, it is still high day. Is it not time for the livestock to be gathered together? Water the sheep, go to and go pasture them. So Jacob's telling these folks what to do. That just was interesting. But they said, we cannot until all the flocks are gathered together by the stone, and the stone is rolled from the mouth of the well. Then we water the sheep. Okay. While he was still speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. That's pretty cool. We know who's the famous shepherd that we know about? David. Well, Rachel was a shepherdess. She's out there working away.
I wonder if she carried a sling.
Yeah, I wonder if she carried a sling. She probably carried something. Something to knock those sheep and to protect them too.
I think she had a.
You think she had a dog? A good sheep dog, that's her name. You remember that phrase, spare the, and you know, there's real truth to that, you know, discipline and stuff, but the beauty of that metaphor is that, what's another spot where you hear about a rod? Famous psalm. 23rd Psalm, thy what? Rod, they. Yeah, so a rod is not just for, you know, that phrase, spare the rod, lose the child, has always been a proof text for giving your kid a spanking or whatever. And discipline is hugely important. I'm not making a position on that one way or the other necessarily, but here the rod comforts. How does the rod comfort? Well, it protects.
Yeah.
You get a fox coming in at the sheep or, you know, yeah.
Yeah, I heard once that the hook on them, yeah, you know, they could use that to pull the sheep out of nature.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So it's both love and discipline is all there in one metaphor. We've just forgotten the love and protection part, which, you know, so that was a lovely tangent, wasn't that? Okay. Okay, so she's a shepherdess, and I think that's cool. Now, as soon as Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, Jacob came near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth and watered whose sheep? Watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. So he just moves right in, gonna start taking care of her. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and wept aloud. Talk about moving right in.
He's a real sensitive guy.
Yeah, he's just.
And he can pick up absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Now, maybe it was just a kiss on the, you know, cheek or something. Maybe it's more of a greeting, I don't know. But he weeps aloud. I wonder why he wept aloud. Maybe he's weeping for joy. What else? He's so happy he sees this beautiful woman. Okay, yeah. He's relieved. Yes, I love that word. He's relieved. It's like, I've been sent here. I don't know. I mean, I suppose he had some means and resources, but we don't really hear about that. Yeah, how am I gonna fight? You know, so isn't there something about when, you know, God's promises are often hidden? You know you've got the promise, but you don't, sometimes it sure doesn't seem like it. But then you have those moments in life where it comes together. It's like, and that's an emotional thing. And I think that, I mean, who knows why he wept, but I think all of those things that you talked about are cool. So that makes Jacob very human. He's not that he isn't already very human, but I love that part in this text. And Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's kinsman and that he was Rebekah's son. And she, Rachel, runs, not just saunters over and told her father. Ron, can you just pull those shut while she's blowing on this stuff? And then we'll reopen it because it sure feels good, doesn't it? So as soon as this is just a great novel at this point. So I mean, we'll stop and we'll discuss and talk, but I mean, we just need to read it because it's told in such a beautiful way. As soon as Laban heard the news about Jacob, his sister's son, he ran to meet him and embraced him and kissed him and brought him to his house. Now, the word ran jumped out at me. That it's just flat out what it means. But I know when we did a lot of work on the prodigal son story.
The father ran.
The father ran, right. And some of the research was that everybody else seeing the father run, it would be humiliating for the father. Older men did not run. That was not, I mean, I'm glad because I can kind of, Pete over there now with his news, and he is walking everywhere. But in that day, you'd have to pick up your cloak to run. And that is an embarrassment. So, the text doesn't say that, but the fact that he's running is not just like he's kind of excited. He's like, I don't care what anybody else thinks. This is so cool, that type of thing. I think that's there. And he ran to meet him and embraced him and kissed him and brought him to his house. And Jacob told Laban all these things. And Laban said to him, surely you are my bone and my flesh. And he stayed with him a month. Okay, so we've gotten Jacob to where God and to where he was told to go. What's going to happen? Then Laban said to Jacob, because you are my kinsman, should you therefore serve me for nothing? Tell me, what shall your wages be? So Jacob's going to be there, serve Laban. What do you want? Now Laban had two daughters. The name of the older was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah's eyes were weak, or I think it's soft here. Yeah, soft. Tender, gentle. Or weak, spoiled, coddled.
Makes me think of in Gone with the Wind, Melody was always, she's the one who saw good in everybody.
Oh, right.
And Scarlett was the one who was out to get everything.
Yes. Interesting.
When I read this, I would think of those two.
Yeah, interesting. There you go. Where did they get the inspiration for these things? So already a distinguishing in between the two, as the narrator just drops that, as Moses or God the Holy Spirit, however, drops that little detail in there. But Rachel was beautiful in form and in appearance. Okay.
That's an interesting contrast, because why would it say that one is, and then talk about the other being ravishing,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
what's weak eyes have to do with being ravishing?
Yeah, right. So you got one that's, kind of soft, tender, maybe her eyes are not, and then you've got another one that the thing that's mentioned is she's very attractive. Now that doesn't mean that, Leah wasn't necessarily, but you get this. Yes.
Maybe she had an eye that wandered or something, or maybe she was crossing.
Yeah, right, yeah, she could have had a deformity or some
Right.
deal there that jumped it, you know, so.
I think there
Shocker.
I was under the contrast being that the one who's soft eyes is more passive, and the one that the other one is more of a spitfire type of a person.
Yeah, that's kind of the Gone with the Wind type of thing, Audrey, yeah.
The names mean cow and EWE,
Okay,
respectively, appropriate for his family.
okay,
Like.
I don't like that, my Bible didn't tell me that. Yeah, Sharon,
And live as the you.
yeah, okay,
So it's always.
yeah, okay, the you versus the, okay, yeah. Yes, let's say that maybe they really thought cows were one back then. I don't know. That's it. I did not know the etymology of their two names. I did not look that up.
Rachel's.
The NIV Study Bible has Leah as the cow and Rachel as the ewe.
Yeah, Leah, Rachel, the names cow and ewe respectively, appropriate in a herdsman's family.
Yeah. So, yeah, regardless,
Well, how would you know baby's born, that they look like a cow? The other way.
and you know, maybe that was the highest honor to be named a cow back then. The oldest. Right, yeah. We'll have to, you know, in our, it's a different culture. Well, that's good, helpful, so. What is the real key here? Right here. Jacob loved Rachel.
Yeah.
And he said, I will serve you 7 years for your younger daughter, Rachel. And Laban said, it's better that I give her to you than that I should give her to any other man. Stay with me. In other words, hey, that's perfect. We're good. Handshake, whatever. So Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed to him but a few days because of the love he had for her. You know, the Bible doesn't always get kind of tender like this with these details, but this is obviously really important. Who is he excited about? Clearly, Rachel. Okay, well, this is where we get into the interesting stuff. Then Jacob said to Laban, now remember, what did Jacob do? Jacob, he deceived, he tricked kind of Esau with the birthright and then the blessing and all of this. Even though the text says God chose Jacob from the very beginning, you know, but yet, you know, all this kind of interesting stuff's going on. I wonder if it'll stop now. Give to me my wife, that I may go into her, for my time is completed. So he's done his 7 years. So Laban gathered together all the people of the place and made a feast. Okay, so it's time for the wedding. But in the evening, he took his daughter Leah and brought her to Jacob, and he went into her. So that's a euphemism for intercourse, of course. Laban gave his female servant Zilpah to his daughter Leah to be her servant. And in the morning, behold, it was Leah. Now, have you ever heard the phrase, what goes around comes around? That was the party that he didn't know who he was, getting together with.
Because didn't they not, didn't you fail?
Must have been a disguise, almost like comical. Like, you gotta be kidding me.
Like sheepskin on the arms.
Like the sheepskin on the arms, like, you gotta be kidding me. Did he know, did he not? But I love it, the text, behold, it's Leah. Oh, no. I made a mistake. No going back. Because now you are married to Leah. That was part of the marriage, by the way.
Must be heavy mail that they were.
Yeah. Or he had had none of that wedding on. And and Jacob said to Laban, what's this you've done to me? Did I not serve you for Rachel? Why then have you deceived me? Now, don't you just love the fact that he's upset that he's been deceived? Is this just the greatest story of all? This is so. Yeah.
The table was, he just took,
Yeah, right.
had Mike been a little bit upset there, then.
Sure, he made a deal. The deal was clearly for Rachel. That was his, and he got Leah. Now, I think Laban's pretty darn sharp. I think he's he's given Jacob a little of his own medicine. I think, but anyway, so then, so let's see. I love what he says, and this is a common way to say that, hey, this is what you were asking is offensive. So listen to what he says. Laban said, it is not done in our country. In other words, it's dishonorable. It's shameful. This is not done. I can't believe you even asked me. I can't believe you even thought this would be okay for me to give you the younger before the older. That's just not done, Jacob. So, in our country, to give the younger before the firstborn, complete the week of this one. That's the wedding. So a wedding was a week-long thing. So, and I guess more wine, yeah. And we will give you the other also in return for serving me another 7 years. Okay, Laban's a good business guy too. He's gonna, he's worked this out perfectly, he thinks. Do you mess around with God's anointed chosen one? Well, we'll see how that goes for him. But, so in other words, he's basically now giving both his daughters. But now I'm giving you Rachel, but you got to do 7 years. I'm not going to make your wait 7 years, but so he had grace. He had grace. He had grace on Jacob. Jacob did so and completed her week. Then Laban gave him his daughter Rachel to be his wife. Laban gave his female servant Bilhah to his daughter Rachel to be her servant. So Jacob went into Rachel also, and he loved Rachel more than Leah. Okay, there's back to that theme. And served Laban for another 7 years. We got that holy number 7. So interesting story. People wouldn't expect to find this in the holy book. So yeah, please, Sharon. Yes.
And she wasn't the most encouraged, so it's
Right.
the fact that he names that. intending to keep Rachel in line for Jacob. Now he's got both with a guy he knows
Yeah,
and has proven himself to be a worker and participating. So in a way, I mean, there's an angle to it that I can think that that would guarantee that he had preserved his family.
sure. From that cultural standpoint, what he did, to me, was not, well, I guess he tricked Jacob a little bit, but nonetheless, he's taking care of his family and his oldest daughter. So it's a very loving, caring thing. Sorry, Audrey.
And well, Laban didn't have to pay for 2 weddings.
And he didn't have to. No. Don't give me any ideas. Well, that's great, that's great. So that's great. So no, Sharon, I think that's right on. I think Laban is wise and caring for his family and smart move.
You think Laban couldn't have found somebody else for Leah in those first 7 years?
Well, no, but maybe it's not somebody as good as Jacob. I don't know. Yeah. Now, so we have this great thing where, I just think it's so cool that, that Jacob has, in one sense, done to him something similar than what he did to his dad. I don't know what that says to him.
Goes around, comes around.
What goes around comes around.
Laban would have known that Jacob has, what, 2/3 of Isaac's estate or.
So-
He's a rich,
So,
he's a well-off guy.
yeah, and remember it said Jacob told Laban all these things, so you get the sense that Laban is totally in on the fact that Jacob's been sent to flee because Esau wants to kill him, but he knows that now he's the guy. So, yeah, smart that way too. Couldn't find a better suitor for his 2 daughters, I guess.
But then wouldn't you have expected that Jacob would take both of them
Away at some point.
He wouldn't see his daughters anymore?
Well.
You gotta get rid of it somehow.
Yeah, well, and he probably would expect that of, unless, the person was right from amongst their community, yeah.
But Jacob was the second born, and yet God said the younger would rule the older. And so maybe Jacob's just thinking, well, why not? That's the way it was with me.
Right, so why can't I have Rachel? She's the second born too.
Would be, he's gonna live out the rest of his life, and how many families have trouble with Something like that, not liking that kind of stating, and this is what, but it's way.
Yeah.
And so he had his eye on making sure that I got.
Sure, yeah.
Business.
Yeah.
Seen 7 years.
I think it's an important question to wonder what was going on with Laban. We're gonna see towards the end of this saga, Laban isn't really cool with what ends up happening, but anyway, Paul,
Yeah, I
yeah,
was just gonna say that they didn't have any hesitation about polygamy in those days.
correct. Right, yeah, they did not. This is an issue that we face as we see the stories of the patriarchs, so to speak. Polygamy was practiced. They did have, some of the patriarchs did have multiple wives. And it was not a shameful thing. Although I think it is interesting that the Bible never, especially in the law, never endorses that. We're told that they did it. And you could say, well, at that time, because you need to populate the earth, it was, for a time or something, but yeah.
But this promise that God had made to Jacob about the descendants, so
Yes.
his 2 wives.
More descendants, and actually, as we're gonna see, it's not just the 2 wives. But servants. Cause we need to have 12 kids. So, yeah. And the narrator just drops that in there. Now this person became their servant and that servant. Well, yeah. So now we get the story. Yes, please.
Just thought it was funny, I had missed that when you said that, Jacob told Laban all these things. And so then Laban says, surely you're my bone and my flesh. I could just hear him say, oh, this guy is my kind of.
Was he seeing dollar signs?
He's a stallion.
That's right. The lottery. I
Yeah,
got the lottery ticket. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, very cool. Now we're gonna hear about some kids. And then
We're gonna hear a little bit of what the Lord thinks of what's going on.
yeah, okay, let's see if we can get an idea about that. Yeah. When the Lord saw that Leah was hated. Now, this is word, I'm surprised at the ESV's translation here.
This one just says not love.
Not loved. I think that's a better translation. Scorned, decreased in status, hate. You know, obviously the ESV has added it, it's put it here, so they think that it warrants that strong of a verb. But other translators disagree that it's more unloved, that he prefers, obviously, Rachel over Leah, or was lesser than. So the Lord saw that, and he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. Now, that's interesting, isn't it? You know, when we talk about God having a heart for the downtrodden and the oppressed and the hurt, here we see some of that showing up, don't we? Oh, well, guess what? You know, Leah's going to start giving you children before Rachel is, and Rachel's barren. So again, we get this over and over theme of, you know, a barren womb, and it's important. And Leah conceived and bore a son, and she called his name Reuben. For she said, because the Lord has looked upon my affliction, the Lord has seen me. For now my husband will love me. So she wants Jacob to love her. And now, hey, I'm giving you a son, and that's gonna make her rise up in the eyes of her husband. But I love that term that Reuben actually means, I think, seed and son together, see a son. But he's looked upon my affliction. It's one thing for someone to be aware of your hurt. It's another thing for someone to be truly present with you in your hurt and not look away when you are hurting. I think that's a powerful thing. We got folks over here making food and sandwiches for, you know, Cottage Bay, and we're not looking away from people's struggle. You know, I just think that's a powerful term. And so God sees her affliction. She conceived again and bore a son and said, because the Lord has heard me and I am, there's that word again, unloved, he has given me this son also. And she called his name Simeon. Simeon sounds like the Hebrew word for heard. So now God saw and God heard. Yes.
Well, if she was so unloved, why was she continually conceiving? You know?
Well, I guess Jacob didn't unlove her that much. So yeah, so we, you know, poor guy.
Yeah. More guy. You know, with couples and
Yeah, it's
You know,
Well,
animals just
and-
do it and-
Well, yes, but I guess what I would say is that those relations were about having kids.
That's true, yeah.
Not that it wasn't enjoyable to them, or whatever, but it was about having kids. And so he's gonna do that because he, you know,
Duty in it.
and it's his duty. Yes, Kim, please take me away from this.
Just getting back to the last one, Ruben, because the Lord has put upon my affliction, there's so many parallels in the story.
Yeah,
What we've been talking about, you know, the older, the younger. And, that's what Hagar called God in the desert when she was rescued, as this is the God who sees me.
Yeah.
that's what Hagar. It was said when Hagar was in the desert, remember when she was sent away? And she said,
This is the God who sees.
this is the God who sees me. So,
And then you can hear it again.
and here again, God sees. And God hears, God sees and hears. I think that's a pretty powerful proclamation of the gospel.
I think it's
Especially
interesting
for-
that it's Leah that names the children.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Interesting.
At least the-
That Leah is the namer of the children. It's an interesting thing. Yeah,
And she's obviously connected with God because each of those names means something, but.
yeah.
It's, but, I had something else in mind.
Oh,
It's.
it's flown away. That's all right.
Well, maybe Rachel was just out herding sheep too long.
Well, okay, I'll go with that.
I think it's interesting, the parallels that follow each other in the Bible.
Yes.
And that's an argument for people who say that the Bible continually contradicts itself.
Hmm,
No, it follows through, there's a line
sure.
of truth all through the Bible. that
Yep.
Shows.
Yeah, and you certainly see God's compassion and his faithfulness all throughout.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, well, let's see what happens next. So we got Simeon, so God hears. Again, she conceived and bore a son, so now I have 3. And now this time my husband will be attached to me. Let's see, what is this? Numbers 8. Okay, so even more, that it's interesting, because I have borne him 3 sons. So, I mean, she ought to be really rising up in the favor of Jacob, because now she's given him 3 sons. How many has Rachel given him? Zip. Therefore, his name was called Levi. Sounds like the Hebrew word for attached. And she conceived again and bore a son and said, this time I will praise the Lord. Therefore, she called his name Judah.
Wasn't Levi the priest?
Levi, the Levites will become the priests.
Yeah.
They do not inherit land when that happens.
And
And of course, Judah becomes one of the 2 tribes of the southern kingdom that survive. The northern tribes disappear completely.
well, and David was from Judah, right?
And David was, wasn't he Benjamin? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, he was.
Yeah, but Benjamin and Judah
Became kind of.
are kind of like one, yeah.
The study Bible says Judah is the ancestor of David in his royal line,
Okay,
and
okay,
ultimately of Jesus.
okay. So it is, so David is from Judah. So, way to go, Leah. I wonder if this is why Princess Leia in Star Wars got. So
So there's something there too, that the lesser having the greater.
the lesser having the greater.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Good, Kim. That's really good. Yeah,
So Jesus is traced appropriately.
yes, and through Leah.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Or certainly David, yeah. When Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, she envied her sister. Shocker. There's the envy, there's the jealousy. It's all in here. She said to Jacob, "Give me children or I shall die." And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, "Am I in the place of God, who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb?" In other words, hey, I'm doing my part. You know, I mean, God can't, you know, don't blame me. Then she said, "Here is my servant Bilhah." Now we're going to take, hasn't this happened before? "Go into her so that she may give birth on my behalf, that even I may have children through her." So okay. So she gave him her servant Bilhah as a wife, and Jacob went into her, and Bilhah conceived and bore Jacob a son. Then Rachel said, "God has judged me and has also heard my voice and given me a son." So that's kind of interesting. So Rachel concludes, you know, she's going to give him her servant, but this is like giving her a son. You know, that's like, okay, that counts for me. And I think that makes sense. It just, from our culture, that just kind of struck me that she gets credit for that. Therefore, she called his name Dan. And what does Dan mean? Dan sounds like the Hebrew word for judge. Rachel's servant Bilhah conceived again and bore Jacob a second son. How many do we got now? 7. Then Rachel said, "With mighty wrestlings, I have wrestled with my sister and have prevailed." So she called his name Naphtali. Now that's going to be a northern kingdom one, the land of Naphtali and Zebulun. Jesus quotes an Old Testament passage when he's doing ministry up in the north. So what's Rachel really interested in at this point? I'm getting up there with my sister. And God is working through all this? That's crazy. All right, then Leah saw that she had ceased.
That's an interesting.
Yeah.
I have wrestled with my sister and prevailed. That's like a foreshadowing.
Yes, because who else is going to say that? Jacob's going to say that not too long from here. He wrestles with this man or this angel or God. We're going to really delve into that when we get there, but he wrestles with God and has prevailed and gets his name changed at that point. It's the same length. Yeah. That's certainly what's happened. All of these sons will be part of the 12 tribes, because there will be the 12 brothers of Jacob. And the last one to be born is who? Is Benjamin. And we get and there's going to be a guy named Joseph coming up. Let's keep going. And let's see if we can get that on board, and then we'll quit for the day. When Leah saw that she had ceased bearing children, she took her servant. Oh, Leah's going to get into the mix of this. She can't have any more kids, so she's going to get her servant Zilpah and gave her to Jacob as a wife. Then Leah's servant Zilpah bore Jacob a son, and Leah said, "Good fortune has come." So she called his name Gad. Sounds like Hebrew for good fortune. Leah's servant Zilpah bore Jacob a second son. How many we got now? 9? Do I got that right? 8. Thank you. I'm not very good at math, so Sandy always gets mad at me when I say that. And Leah said, "Happy am I, for women have called me happy." So she called his name Asher, which of course sounds like happy. All right, so now we have. Okay, in the days of wheat harvest, Reuben went and found mandrakes. You know what, maybe, well, okay. We can get into this and then stop and leave you hanging on to the next. So mandrakes are a plant that are known and thought to be a kind of fertility helping medicine. Okay. Aphrodite in Greek was connected to mandrakes, you know, so, but that's, you know, later, of course, but, so the days of the wheat harvest, Reuben went and found mandrakes in the field and brought them to his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, please give me some of your son's mandrakes. So Rachel wants, you know, this medicine. But she said to her, is it a small matter that you have taken away my husband? Ooh. So all was not all copacetic with this arrangement. Leah's jealous of Rachel. Rachel's jealous of Leah. Leah says, you've taken away my husband, because she knows that he really, really loves her. Would you take away my son's mandrakes also? Rachel said, then he may lie with you tonight in exchange for your son's mandrakes. So, boy, like I say, is this an R-rated movie or what? You can lay with Rachel tonight, you know, or no, opposite. You know, I'll make sure that he lays with you if you give me the mandrakes. In essence, I think is what she's saying.
Yeah.
When Jacob came from the field in the evening, Leah went out to meet him and said, you must come into me, for I have hired you with my son's mandrakes. So now she has to, like, you know. Yeah. I didn't think as a pastor I'd have to deal with this case. Yeah, I know. I'm not reading this at Vacation Bible School.
Jacob is a busy man.
Yes, he's very busy and yeah. So he sees her and he lays with her that night, and God listened to Leah. And she conceived and bore Jacob a fifth son. So Leah now, after not being able to have any children. Wait,
That's
no, Rachel. So Leah said, God, no, wait. God listened to Leah and. So this is Leah having the child, right? And she had said she had stopped being able to, so now we got, because she did this kind thing for her sister, God looked upon her. I would think your study Bibles would tell you that. I don't know. So, named his name Issachar. Sounds like the Hebrew for wages. Hired, yeah. So because, yeah, wow, okay, that's, and wait a minute, God is working through this? I guess so, okay. And Leah conceived again, and she bore Jacob a sixth son. Then Leah said, God has endowed me with a good endowment. Now my husband will honor me because I have borne him six sons. She keeps wanting Jacob's love and honor.
Right.
What a heartbreak. I mean, can you just see a movie like this? You know? I mean, it's, my heart, I'm like sad. I just like this, oh, poor Leah. And my husband will honor me because I bore him six sons, but is that going to do the trick? I don't think so. So she called his name Zebulun. Sounds like honor. Afterwards, she bore a daughter and called her name Dinah. Now that's some foreshadowing because there's going to be a really important story about Dinah coming up. And it's a tragic kind of story. So then God remembered Rachel. Oh, so he hasn't forgotten Rachel either. And God listened to her and opened her womb. And she conceived and bore a son and said, God has taken away my reproach. Now, has she had a son yet? This is her firstborn. Kind of a famous guy. So with all the blessing, God looks upon Leah, compassion, care, gives her, but now Rachel finally, she has a son and his name is Joseph, saying, may the Lord add to me another son. So she views Joseph not as her firstborn necessarily, because her servants' children are her children. So, and now we've got how many? 11. We got 11 kids. We'll get a 12th coming up here in a little bit. So isn't it fascinating that God works through all of the jealousy, all of the planning and the conniving and the this and that? I take great comfort in that.
You know,
Yeah.
it makes you stop and think that you may see somebody and you think they're not capable of doing whatever, you know,
Right?
but God sees them and he can use whoever.
Absolutely, Gloria. That's a great point. One of my, most folks who've heard me talking for a long time now know I often say that one of my biggest frustrations is when people say, I'm just a layperson.
Yeah, yeah, or I'm just a homemaker.
Or I'm just, yeah. Listen. And then when I really get excited when people say to me, Pastor, I don't think I'm up for this. I don't think I'm qualified. I don't think of this. I go, oh, you're perfect for the job then. Because pretty much everybody in the page of the Bible felt the same way.
Yeah.
Peter felt that way.
Well,
Yeah.
the Lord says he can use us better in our weakness.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I used to say about when, in our polity, we elect our presidents or bishops, in the ALC, we call them presidents, I think like in Missouri, but anyway, in the ELCA, or they're called bishops. And so I always used to say, when I voted, I never voted for somebody that clearly wanted the job. Like, if you want to be bishop, you shouldn't be. So because,
It's not for the glory.
yeah, it's not for the glory, exactly, FMA, and, it's an overwhelming, impossible job, and, so, yeah. Well, go home today with, I don't know, with the promise that God works through every part of human frailty to get his work done. And he's doing that with these folks, and he's still doing it amongst us. Although I hope not quite as steamy a situation. Thank you, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'm gonna shoot over. If you want to come over and listen to the kids, that's of course, but I'm not pushing that. Do it. Do what you'd like to do. Thank you. This was cool. And don't forget the YouTube playlist for all the Genesis studies for you to go back and listen to if you want. But we'll upload this a little later today. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye.
Keep track. Thanks, Ace. Take care.